following action research project was undertaken with the Stage 1 Year 1 class at Condell Park Public School. The project heavily appreciates and strives to incorporate the core values of the MEE framework within mathematics lessons. The project is focused on incorporating creative arts within mathematics lessons to strengthen student engagement and shift students from being disengaged to being deeply engaged in tasks. Condell Park Public School is located in southwestern Sydney within a multicultural social middle class residential area. Condell Park Public School was established in 1950 and recorded in 2019 there are a total of 30 teaching staff. The school has approximately 560 students enrolled, coming from a range of cultural, religious, and socio-economic backgrounds. 93% of students enrolled at the school are from a language background other than English. The highest percentage of languages spoken at home by students and families are English, Arabic, and Vietnamese. Condell Park Public School has strong partnerships and relationships with both families and communities over the years. These partnerships include association within Parent and Citizens Association (P&C), Parent Community Cafe, and Parent Student Playground. Within the final 4 weeks of my professional practice too, I was allocated a Stage 1 Year 1 class in which was culturally and linguistically diverse, reflecting the diversity presented within the community context in which the school is situated. Further, the class consisted of 22 students which were at a range of levels academically. In saying this, 2 students were working above Stage 1 outcomes, whilst 12 were working at stage appropriate level and 8 were working and achieving below Stage 1 outcomes within areas of English and mathematics. Within the first 2 weeks of my professional practice too, I was originally placed at Al Hikma College in Lakemba and was allocated a Stage 3 Year 5 class. Within this block, I was able to observe student behavior and overall engagement. I observed that the teacher rarely to never utilized collaborative learning within the classroom, which led to the focus of my action research project. However, after factors beyond my control, I was relocated to Condell Park Public School to complete the remaining 4 weeks of my practicum. I was placed in a Stage 1 Year 1 class and strived to continue implementing my focus area of collaborative learning. However, after trial, collaborative learning was not benefiting student engagement or academic achievement. Therefore, I needed to modify my action research project. Within my observations, I noticed strong levels of disengagement within mathematics lessons. It was at this moment that I started considering ways to make mathematics more meaningful and engaging for students. Through the incorporation of creative arts within mathematics lessons, I strive to stem away from traditional approaches to teaching and mathematical rote learning, whereby students are forced to memorize information through constant repetition. With the incorporation of creative arts, the shift from rote to creative, meaningful, and active learning takes place, as students become autonomous agents in their own learning. This perspective links strongly to the MEE framework, as students become active learners and are in task rather than on task, leading to high cognitive, high affective, and high operative modes of learning. Further, my focus aligns with my personal teaching philosophy relating to constructivist approaches to learning, as creative arts encourages students to engage in artistic practices through hands-on and creative experiences. As a teacher, I feel as though learning should be meaningful to students. In saying this, creative arts can be utilized as a form of human expression, as the arts is embedded within the world we live. Further, creative arts can be utilized by students with a range of intellectual abilities, therefore increasing the engagement levels of all students. In total, there are 3 students working slightly below Year 1 literacy and numeracy syllabus outcomes and 2 students working at Year 1 literacy and numeracy syllabus outcomes. The 5 selected students had carefully been selected based on abilities, personalities, relationships with each other, and my overall observations upon entering the classroom. I feel as though these students in particular would benefit mostly from the incorporation of creative arts, as 3 are working below Year 1 numeracy syllabus outcomes and 2 are just reaching Year 1 numeracy syllabus outcomes. Further, through my observations, these students are easily distracted and disengaged, particularly within mathematics. I narrowed my focus to mathematics surrounding topics of arrays and skip counting, and planned to engage the 5 selected students in a series of mathematical lessons that encourage students to engage with creative art forms. Full consent was obtained from guardians of the 5 focused children prior to the collection of any of the following data. Further, before the Action Research Project was implemented, it was approved by both my mentor teacher and principal of the school. Observations. Through my observations, I was able to effectively observe student engagement levels within mathematics. Through the observation of body language, verbal conversations, and work completed by students, I was able to observe students' overall engagement and attitude towards their learning. Further, observations completed by my mentor teacher were collected, in which were reflected on student overall engagement in mathematics within the incorporation of creative arts. Records of conversations. Learning conversations between student to student and teacher to students were recorded throughout the implementation of my Action Research Project. Through these anecdotal transcripts, I was able to evaluate the effectiveness of my focus area on student engagement within mathematics. Student work samples. Work samples were collected and included the mathematical artworks created by students. Each work sample was annotated on the basis of student engagement, reflecting on students demonstrating levels of high cognitive, high affective, and high operative modes of learning. Further, work samples assess student academic achievement, linking to mathematical and creative arts syllabus outcomes. Student self-assessment. Student self-assessment questions asked were directly linked to the REAL framework of student engagement and student self-assessment. Through self-assessment, it was evident that students were displaying positive psychological perspectives towards school, demonstrating engagement levels at the big E, being school is for me. When entering my new placement setting, I observed students with low engagement levels during mathematics. Students should not only be substantially engaged in their classroom experiences, but also developing enduring and rewarding relationships with the larger project of education generally. I knew my project focus positively impacted students in this way, as I observed students deeply engage in mathematics lessons with the incorporation of creative arts. Further, students' mathematical learning was active, creative, and meaningful as they shifted from the small e to the big E through an observable shift within my data collection. The following work samples were produced in an activity that required students to finger paint arrays with equal rows and columns. Students displayed high affective modes of learning as they demonstrated a flow of creativity, enjoyment, and engagement whilst completing the activity. Students displayed high cognitive modes of learning as deep knowledge of counting arrays was evident, as students went beyond task requirements and included repeated addition and number sentences in artworks. Students successfully met outcomes MA1 6 and 8 and MA1 1WM from the New South Wales Mathematics syllabus, as well as outcome VAS 1.2 of the Creative Arts syllabus. The following work samples were produced in an activity that required students to create an array city. Students utilized the windows of each building to create arrays with equal rows and columns. Students displayed high affective modes of learning as they demonstrated a flow of creativity, enjoyment, and engagement whilst completing the activity and appreciating creativity. Further, students were able to link the activity to real life examples, being Sydney City buildings. Students displayed high cognitive modes of learning as the activity encouraged high order thinking, as students concentrated to create arrays with equal rows and columns. Lastly, students successfully met the outcome MA1 6 and 8 from the New South Wales Mathematics syllabus, as well as outcomes VAS 1.1 and VAS 1.2 of the New South Wales Creative Arts syllabus. The work samples were produced in an activity that required students to paint equal groups of 2s, 3s, or 5s. Students displayed high affective learning through creative, engaging, and active modes of learning. The middle work sample reaffirms positive feelings towards the incorporation of creative arts in maths, as equal groups of 2 were turned into smiley faces. Students also displayed high operative learning, as work samples exemplified that students were in control and went beyond task requirements and painted thought processes by skip counting. Students successfully met outcomes MA1 6&A and MA1 1WM from the New South Wales Mathematics syllabus, as well as outcome VAS 1.2 of the Creative Arts syllabus. The following observations were taken on the 21st of the 5th, 2019 during my observation days at my new placement classroom and prior to the implementation of my action research project. The lesson was being conducted by my mentor teacher. Students were engaging in a mathematics activity that required students to work in pairs, roll a dice, and create arrays based on the numbers rolled. Whilst observing, I noticed the chosen participants being disengaged, confused, and distracted within the task. Further, some students were distracting others from their learning, which resulted in low affective, low operative, and low cognitive modes of learning. Disengaging messages of knowledge, why are we doing this, ability, I can't do this, and control, I'm not doing this, were observed. The following student observations were conducted on the 3rd of the 6th, 2019, during the implementation of my action research project. Students within this lesson were required to create an array city, using the windows as the basis to create equal rows and columns. Students were observed displaying high cognitive, high affective, and high operative modes of learning whilst engaging with the task. Engaging messages of knowledge, we can see the connection and the meaning. Ability, I am capable, and voice, we can share were observable while students completed the task. Z in particular is usually very quiet but was observed sharing ideas and linking learning to real life examples. Further, B is usually observed distracting other students from learning, however, was observed working cognitively and operatively as he deeply concentrated on the task. Comparing observation 1 to observation 2, students were strongly engaged and were observed not repeating behaviors of disengagement, confusion, and distraction. Rather, students reacted positively to the incorporation of creative arts within mathematics. Students were observed by my mentor teacher within my lessons as being deeply engaged as well as displaying a strong understanding of lesson content. Both student engagement and academic achievement were observed as a result of the incorporation of creative arts within mathematics. This is evident through the comment, your lesson goal and research project focus has been achieved. Firstly, the learning conversation revealed that students had a conceptual understanding of the content area, displaying high cognitive order thinking as they communicated the arrays in which were being made. The engaging message ability was evident as A stated, I know what I'm doing, with AT replying, so do I. This indicated a shift from rote learning to active learning. Further, a shift to meaning learning was evident as students linked the content and process to personal experiences. Secondly, students were observed at a multidimensional level, linking to a high affective mode of learning, as they demonstrated an appreciation and enjoyment for creative learning within mathematics. S communicated that creative art forms in mathematics makes it more fun, and A stated it makes it easier to learn. Within learning experiences, effective communication is key. Teacher-student conversations allowed me to assess and manage classroom talk, ensuring I was providing effective questioning techniques to support student learning. High operative and active modes of learning were evident as students were explaining what they were creating to myself and other students. High cognitive modes of learning were further evident as students displayed deep knowledge towards the content area when answering posed questions, as well as being able to justify answers and thought processes. High affective modes of learning were further evident as students reflected on feelings and appreciation towards creativity within mathematics. The following question, how does using creative arts in mathematics lessons make you feel, was presented to the 5 chosen participants. Students demonstrated high emotion and high behavior as they are seen genuinely valuing and actively participating in what they are doing at school. This was evident through the answers provided by the students. This demonstrates that students are shifting from procedural forms of student engagement to a substantive sense of satisfaction towards their learning at school. Through the self-assessment, it is further evident that students are shifting from the small e to the big E as they present a positive psychological investment into school and classroom work. Engaging messages of ability, I am capable, voice, we share, and place, it's great to be a kid from, was evident throughout this self-assessment. Students demonstrate high cognition as they reflect on the incorporation of creative arts in mathematics, stating it makes it fun and easier. This demonstrates that students are shifting from procedural forms of student engagement to a substantive sense of satisfaction towards their learning at school. Through the self assessment, it is further evident that students are shifting from the small e to the big E as they present a positive psychological investment into school and their learning. This reaffirms the effectiveness of the project, as students understand that learning is far greater than a process. Rather, it is valuable to oneself and is further lifelong applicable. In saying this, students are beginning to think about their learning outside of the classroom, therefore, seeing their learning in the future of the present. This is evident as one of the children reflects that they will be able to use mathematics when they are older. Through the implementation of my action research project, my findings revealed that students were observed deeply more engaged in mathematics after the incorporation of creative arts. These findings further affirm creative arts as a form of human expression, as well as a tool for students to communicate what they know and extend their learning. The arts further connects people, places, and things within the world we live, which was further evident through the data collection. Through the integration of creative arts, students engaged in creative, active, and meaningful forms of learning. Further, throughout the work samples, it was evident that students engaged in enjoyment forms of learning, as they actually enjoyed and valued what they were doing throughout the mathematical lessons when creative art forms were included. My long term goals heavily reflect on my findings. As a future teacher, I would strive to not only incorporate creative arts within mathematics, but would further strive to integrate multiple KLAs within classroom learning experiences. All students learn differently, and creative learning was one way in which positively impacted my five chosen participants within engagement and academic achievement. With these findings, I would ensure that I am incorporating KLAs based on the physical, social, and intellectual differences presented within the classroom. Lastly, another long term goal for when I have my own class is to utilize the four forms of data to assess student engagement as well as academic achievement. I believe the four forms of data greatly assisted me in assessing these two aspects of student learning. Within Tutorial 7, my focus group and I collaborated by formulating questions for each other. With five members within our group, we went around in a circle and provided each student with a question, resulting in 5 questions each. The 5 questions formulated by my focus group have been utilized throughout the slides within my presentation. The questions assisted me in narrowing down my ideas and focusing closely on certain aspects of my action research project. Further, screenshots of effective dialogue have been included on this slide as evidence of me assisting my focus group on both social media, being Snapchat and WhatsApp. Further, I have included the following consent forms from the principal, the mentor teacher, and the guardians of the 5 chosen participants. For the purpose of this assessment, all consent forms have been anonymized.